Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Officially 18 days into the month of May, and it is Wednesday, 18th of May 2022. Good morning, Uganda. Thank you for being with us. It is midweek happiness, like I always call it. Well, you know why I say it's midweek happiness? Because right about now, you should have gauged yourself and see whether you should be happy or not with what you've done during the course of the week, because we are midway and we still have quite some other days to conclude the week. Now, do you have a reason to smile or do you not? Well, that is a question for you to ponder about during the course of today. My name is Philomena, Mastiko, and of course we are here, your morning cup of coffee when it comes to the information, when it comes to inspiring you, and again when it comes to entertaining you. And I am joined by my colleagues here, Robert, Kirabo and Mollen, Kenyena. Yesterday was quite such a hot day, especially when it comes to the August House. The Parliament was on fire. Several topics were talked about. Those definitely we are going to be talking about right now and much later on in Good Morning Uganda. Issues of accountability were brought to the table, and very many MPs were questioning where we're standing as an institution or as a country when it comes to, being accountable for our actions, for our thoughts, and for what we say. Well, I will leave that at that. But for now, also just to find out from Robert. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is a Wednesday, and like you said yesterday, there was a lot of news. Good morning, Mollen. Good morning, Philo. Good morning, our lovely viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Now, for me, my interesting bit in Parliament, away from the Dr. Monica Musonero issues of accountability, was this interesting issue where MPs were protesting.
Yes.
That is a salary cut of just 1 million to contribute to the Olanya Fund. See, these are our leaders. When they're seeking for votes, they pledge how they can sacrifice their lives for us.
Yes.
But the Speaker asks them, that honorable members of Parliament, it is only 1 million out of what you earn. So I ask myself now, do this give 10% in church?
In church.
What God asks for? Because they asked for 1 million. And she went ahead to tell them, well, if you feel you're not willing to give this money, please come give your names.
Yes.
I'll return the money, plus other members of Parliament. And Asumani Basaira came out clearly and said there's a procedure. If you feel for you don't want that 1 million deducted from your money,
Speak up.
clear.
Speak up.
We know
Don't
for you
grumble.
want your money because anyone,
Yes.
death can meet them, and this is a fund that is going to help a number of people that this fallen Speaker of Parliament, the late Jacob Ola.
Honestly, Robert,
So I found that, for me, that was the most interesting bit of it. How people will believe in this country and above the ordinary earning.
Robert, that clearly shows you how people have double standards, and it's not just cut out for the ordinary man, but even for our legislators, because these are the same people who are in total agreement, and they pledged for the 1 million to be deducted of their salaries. But look at them right now, grumbling behind the closed doors. And let me tell you, the Speaker of Parliament was not happy about that. Well, good morning, Mollen.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena, Robert, and of course our viewers. Well, I think this country has had a history of people making pledges and they never really come to life. And for this time, I saw the Right Honourable Speaker really come out to say, guys, you made these pledges, and if you're not willing to come through, what picture does that send? And I think this is not only from members of Parliament, but also government as a whole. They have made pledges in the past that were never really saw the light of day, which is why a lot of institutions are resorting to striking. But also yesterday I did see the Permanent Secretary of Finance, that is Ramadan Gobi, coming out to say government has allocated 400 billion shillings to go for salary enhancement, and the teachers and medics are in there and other public servants. But we want to see that happen, because it could actually be right there in the budget. But getting through, until we see that money come through,
Yes.
I think people are still not settled. They're still going to take it to the streets and strike about it. And also how the Honourable Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, was calling upon people to always at least have talks with the Finance Ministry before going. But how can this be done? How do you approach the same ministry
Yes.
where government has pledged to give you enhancements, but they are not coming through, and you think they'll give you audience? So I think that is an overstatement that I don't see it
I mean, we
happen.
can give them a benefit of doubt. I love the fact that they did allocate the 400 billion Uganda shillings, and we are yet to find how that is going to really turn out. But also, again, yesterday, the Ministry of Finance did launch the National Budget Month. Now, a lot of activity really happens between the National Budget Month, and one of them is to basically create awareness, especially to the public, and also give accountability on the implementation strategy of the previous budget, but also just to thank the public, especially for the people who are really tax compliant, the voluntary tax compliance. I don't know, there are very many people who complain, of course, when it comes to paying taxes. They're very disgruntled, but they comply. But there are people who don't have problems when it comes to complying to all these taxes. So yes, all that is definitely going to be done this month, and of course, rather during this specific month of a National Budget Month. So a lot of activity is going to be drawn in this month, as we are also planning for the next budget for the financial year 2022-2023. So all that is supposed to be very, I could say, enlightening. I mean, if I may ask you, Robert, in this new budget for the financial year 2022-2023, what would you want to see? What would be some of the new changes, or where do you think some more money should be allocated?
For me, I look at the area of recovery.
Yes.
When the permanent secretary came out and said that there is already 200 billion for SMEs, because we know that we need taxes. And if you don't assist businesses and they collapse, because globally you find that a number of businesses collapsed, and it is from these small, medium enterprises that we find later developing to big taxpayers. So when government allocates that 200 billion equally, like Mollen has talked about the 400 billion for salary enhancement for the scientists, including teachers, for me, I look at this money. Most of the times government has come up with money. Now here someone is getting a loan up to 100 million and you're paying 10% of that.
Yes.
If you go to banks, my friend, the interest rates are what are failing people to get the loans from there. But how is accessible is this money for the targeted people? Government comes out with good strategies, but implementation. You remember the COVID Recovery Fund where Kasita came out and said, show us any of our members who have benefited.
Yes.
So I pray and hope that really this money, people can access it, and more monies can be put into this area. Recovery, so that the businesses blossom again, we increase our tax base. For me, that is the area I want. And also, finally, the area of health. Today, many accidents are happening.
Yes.
But when you look at the way people are transported from the scene, where they are taken, it's very, very sad.
Most
many
of these
hospitals,
emergency areas
the
are in an
emergency
polling
wards,
station, yes.
because for pregnancy, people can plan. For some diseases, pressure, HIV/AIDS, we've excelled. COVID, we did fairly good. But these emergency wards have to be worked upon. People are dying when they shouldn't have died.
Well, honestly, I would also vouch for that. I think the health sector quite needs some more extra money. But also, to bounce off the question to you, Mollen, where would you want to see more money allocated in this next financial budget?
Well, I think my first pick will also align with what you guys are saying, going for the health, because I think if there is one thing that COVID-19 did teach us is that we are not health-wise, we are not ready, we are not doing well. So this is where a lot of money should be going, especially when it comes to, revamping most of these health centers, because this is where we're having issues that even the smallest cases that could be handled at that level were, not handled, because these hospitals do not have enough facility to actually save a life, and that is where the money should be going. Overlooking the fact that there are a lot of issues in the health sector, and this is what the ministry should work on before this money comes through, because we don't want to deal with another mismanagement of funds. But also more to that, I want to talk about agriculture. This is a sector that is really hurting right now. There has been a lot of disasters hitting agriculture. There has been a lot of stress.
Time.
Exactly.
Yes.
There is a lot of stress when it comes to that sector. So I think farmers would benefit a lot from having government, support, especially in terms of the produce and what they can do to make sure that they get back on track. Because I don't think that the curve is going, back. We are just going up when it comes to resistance, and they are struggling.
Well, at least one thing I am very certain about is that every sector at this point believes that they need an increment when it comes to the budget. But, of course, everybody cannot be given. Every wish can't be granted. Sacrifices have to be made, and compromises as well have to be put into consideration. Now, who will be put on the sacrificing table? We are yet to know that. Well, it's time to take you through some of the stories that made it to the news desk yesterday. And that is, of course, right here from home, our home stories, and outside Uganda, outside African borders. Those are some of the international stories that we'll be taking you through right about now. But for now, the local stories.
And we were kicked with the plight of refugees in this country, where yesterday our Prime Minister met a delegation from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and discussed a number of issues that included calling upon the donor community to improve funding. The Prime Minister of Uganda, Robin Nabanja, said the crisis in Ukraine shouldn't overshadow the huge humanitarian refugee crisis in other parts of the world, including Uganda. The Prime Minister made the revelation while meeting a United Nations High Commission for Refugees delegation led by the chairman of the Executive Committee of United Nations High Commission for Refugees, Program Ambassador Salim Badla, at her office in Kampala. Nabanja said there is fear that the ongoing Ukraine crisis could overshadow the huge humanitarian refugee crisis elsewhere in the world. The delegation had paid a courtesy call to the Prime Minister to discuss issues of partnership. Nabanja told the visiting delegation that Uganda is a hosting country to over 1.6 million refugees, and since January this year, over 50,000 refugees have crossed into Uganda from Democratic Republic of Congo, and the country needs over $800 million to provide water and sanitation, medical, food, shelter, education, among others, for the refugees and hosting communities. She appreciated the United Nations High Commission for Refugees for supporting Uganda for this noble call, but asked the UN body that Ugandans have worked in the field of refugees for a long time and are professional enough and qualified for this task, and urged the delegation to ensure that they are fixed in high position on issues handling refugees, more so in the United Nations High Commission for Refugees body. The chairman of the executive committee of the UNHCR, Commissioner Program Ambassador Salim, said the concern will be tabled in Geneva. The meeting was attended by the Minister for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Response, Engineer Hilary Onek, Esther Davinia Anyakun, that is the State Minister for Disaster Response, among other officials.
Away from that, the Kotido security operations ongoing. Now, over 500 people have been arrested in a joint security operation of the UPDF and police forces. The forces have intensified intelligence comprised of cordon and search operations after getting more manpower from the Special Forces Command, a presidential elite force. According to the 3rd Division Commander, Brigadier General Joseph Balikudembe, the operation has happened concurrently across the 9 districts of Karamoja sub-region. Now, the Joint Security Force of UPDF and police have intensified their intelligence over the area. Now, the current operations took place concurrently in the 9 districts of Karamoja, and the operations were aided by drone cameras to oversee those in hiding and those trying to hide. Police and UPDF cordoned off different areas in the sub-counties of Kaner in Kotido, Kakamar in Kabong, and Luputuk in Moroto, among others. Now, at 6 a.m. yesterday in the morning, people were told to move out of their homes and were in groups in one place at Potangor Parish in Kaner Sub-County, Kotido District. Well, security officers told the LC1 chairpersons to identify the people whose names were being read, but most of them declined. Now, the 3rd Division Commander, Brigadier Joseph Balikudembe, decried of lack of cooperation among local leaders. Balikudembe said over 500 suspects were arrested and will be screened to get the hardcore criminals. He revealed that the joint operation is unstoppable in all districts of Karamoja. However, the LC3 chairperson of Kaner, Moses Igara, of Kapel Sub-County in Kotido District, was worried on how UPDF carried out the operations.
And away from efforts to ensure Karamoja is peaceful, we now move to politics. That is the by-elections in Omoro, where the campaigns for Omoro by-elections yesterday entered day 2, where NRM's Andrew Ojok Olanya was in Akidi sub-county, while the NUP's Simon Tolit was in Olforet sub-county, and FDC's Julius, that is Odong Justin, was in Okedo sub-county. The political temperature is heating up as the Omoro County parliamentary election race to replace the fallen Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, entered day 2 yesterday. The leading candidate, NRM's Andrew Ojok, was in company of the woman member of Parliament for Omoro District, Christine Lamwaki, who spiced up the campaign. NRM's Andrew Ojok Olanya campaigned in 3 different centers. Ojok pledged to work on improving health service delivery, lobby for more government aid in education and infrastructure, as well as improve the road network. Voters expressed concern over the poor education standards, poor road network, and poor health systems. They urged Ojok to work on the matter if voted to Parliament. The heated-up campaign started on Monday, which was the 16th, and ends next week on the 24th of this very month, before polls on Thursday, 26th. That is the set date for them to cast their vote.
Now, in another story, we look at inside the judiciary expenditure of the Uganda shillings 376 billion that was allocated to the sector this financial year ending. Now, the Permanent Secretary to the Judiciary, Pius Bigirimana, unpacking the resource envelope expenditure, says the sector managed to absorb 74% of the allocated resource envelope. This literally means that 26% suffered from low absorption capacity despite the challenges facing the judiciary, like poor salary remunerations of the state attorneys and backlog cases. Now, in the financial year 2021-2022, Parliament allocated the judiciary 367 billion to extend judicial services to Ugandans and ensuring smooth operations at the altar of justice as envisaged in the Constitution. With just 1 month to the end of the financial year of 2021-2022, judiciary has managed to absorb only 74% of what was allocated in it.
in the resource envelope. This means that 26% of the resource allocated to the judiciary has suffered from low absorption capacity, a syndrome economic analysts associate with absence of work plans in many government institutions and late disbursement of funds to the intended beneficiaries by the Ministry of Finance. Despite this challenge, part of the 74% spent resource envelope was used to build judicial administrative centers like courts in hard-to-reach areas that lacked judicial courts.
Well, away from the local stories and taking you outside the African borders, still looking at the Buffalo shooting, Biden rebukes poison of white supremacy. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden has condemned white supremacy as a poison running through our body politic during a visit to Buffalo in New York. 10 black people were killed at a supermarket in the city on Saturday in what is believed to be a racially motivated hate crime. The suspect, 18 years of age, identified himself as a fascist and white nationalist in a document posted online. Mr. Biden on Tuesday said the young man belonged to a hateful minority. After meeting families impacted by the shooting, he eulogized the victims for their individual lives of love, service, and community that speak to the bigger story of who we are as Americans. In his so-called manifesto, he referenced white genocide and white replacement conspiracy theories to explain his resentment towards minority groups. In the rambling screed, he also identified politically as being on the authoritarian left. The president accused the shooter of giving into a hateful, perverse ideology rooted in fear and racism. We're still looking at the looming Russia-Ukraine war and right now focusing on fall of Mariupol looms. Russia says 265 Ukrainian fighters who had for months been defending Mariupol's last stronghold for resistance have surrendered. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Rezhnov says the war is entering a protracted phase. The fall of Mariupol appears at hand as Ukraine moves to abandon the Azovstal steel plant where its soldiers had held out for months. The fate of Azovstal fighters remains uncertain after hundreds surrendered and were transported to Russian-controlled territory. The U.S. State Department asserts Washington will support Kyiv, but it is up to Ukraine to, of course, support Kyiv, but again, it's up to Ukraine to define its own objectives in talks with Russia. The European Commission is expected to lay out a plan for how to win the region of Russian fossil fuels by 2027, according to the Reuters news agency. Moving on to Burkina Faso, investigations are especially coming in from the mine flood as rescue efforts continue. Now, rescue workers have found no survivors in a rescue chamber deep inside the flooded zinc mine in Burkina Faso. The government has said all but extinguishing hope that 8 missing miners could still be alive after a month. The Pakoa mine, owned by Canadian firm Trevally Mining Corp and located about 120 kilometers west of the capital, Ouagadougou, was abruptly submerged on April 16th after torrential rain fell unexpectedly during the country's dry season. There had been some hope during a month-long search and rescue operation that the missing men might have reached the rescue chamber, which is stocked with food and water and located approximately 570 meters below ground. The rescue teams have opened the refuge chamber. Unfortunately, it is empty, the government information service said on Tuesday in a statement posted on social media. Everything suggests that the miners were unable to reach the refuge chamber at the moment when the flood happened, and searches are ongoing. The statement added. Trevally said in its own statement, released shortly after the government's one, that the refuge chamber had been found intact with no one inside.
Well, more in climate news. Climate change swells odds of record India-Pakistan heat waves. Now, climate change makes record-breaking heat waves in the northwest India and Pakistan 100 times more likely, a Met Office study indicates. The region should now expect a heat wave that exceeds the record temperatures seen in 2020 once every 3 years. Without climate change, such extreme temperatures would occur only once every 312 years, the Met Office study says. Now, the report comes as forecasters say temperatures in the northwest India could reach new highs in the coming days. The extreme pre-monsoon heat wave that has hit the region has suffered in recent weeks, eased a little after peak temperatures reached 51 degrees Celsius in Pakistan on Saturday. But the heat looks likely to build again towards the end of this week and into the weekend, the Met Office Global Guidance Unit warns. It says maximum temperatures are likely to reach 50 degrees Celsius in some spots, with continued very high overnight temperatures. Now, spells of heat wave has always been a feature of the region's pre-monsoon climate during April and May, says Dr. Nicholas Christidis, who led the team responsible for the study. However, study shows that climate change is driving the heat intensity of these spells, making record-breaking temperatures 100 times more likely.
Well, when it comes to climate change, Mollen, honestly, I would actually think that maybe a part of the budget for the financial year 2022-2023 should also be allocated towards climate change here in Uganda. But I don't know how we stand. Like I said, there are people who are going to be put on the sacrifice table.
Part of the budget month, some of the activities that have lined up already is a tree planting campaign.
Yes.
So we expect to see a number of trees planted there.
Okay.
There is Rwanda, Mollen. When will you give us something encouraging?
There's always good news, but guess what? We also have people that
our hearts are always broken.
Now this disaster, if you're not careful, next 20 years you won't be able to sleep.
We're
in
about to call you the prophet of doom, Mollen, when it comes to climate and weather.
Scientists in climate change.
I refuse to take that name. However, we have to acknowledge what is there, because all these extreme events are hitting people and they need to adapt. They need ways of coping with a changing environment, and that is where the money should be going. Now, we have hotspots in Uganda, people in Bududa, Kasese, and recently also in Toroko. Those are the people that should be helped when it comes to coping with the environment, because they have lost their property, they have lost land, they don't know where to start from, or they even need rehabilitation. So that could also help. And of course, working with Ministry of Water and Environment, Disaster and Preparedness, to make sure that there is adaptive capacity also accounted for when we're talking about the money is being released.
Well, speaking of rehabilitation, at least I know one thing that we need to rehabilitate every single time is our immunity. And Robert, what have we got this morning?
Now, with these fears of climate change, impact, adaptation, whatever it is, for me, all I can tell you is be rest assured, tougher times are coming in terms of the environment. But your body must be boosted enough to be able to adjust and fit in. Boost your immune system so that you survive the continuous flu, coughs, these funny diseases. Boost your immune system, empower your white blood cells to be able to fight off a number of diseases. This is not a drug, that is one thing. Okay. And this is not treatment. This is just an immune booster. There are sweet drinks that boost your immune system. So they simply empower your body, white blood cells to fight diseases. But it's not a treatment for any disease. So it's a soft drink there for you at just 1,500. Go to any nearest shop. Ask for Hallelujah Jinga tea. This one is very sweet. Or Hallelujah tamarind drink. I can assure you, you will thank me later with the savings you'll have made from that is not visiting the doctor.
While we are still on the topic of boosting, obviously we want to boost your moods today. Now, being Wednesday, it's a Woman Crush Wednesday, meaning the inspiration will be coming in from one of those phenomenal women out there. But also, just to take you through our poll question this morning, we would love to find out from you how proper accountability in government institutions can be realized. How can proper accountability in government institutions be realized? Well, it is the usual course, usual mode. You can get to our Twitter, hashtag is UBCGMU, and you could go tradition as well. Send us a text message or a WhatsApp message. The number is 0709 602 592. We surely will be getting into your feedback, responses, thoughts with the rest of our Good Morning Uganda family. For now, we are getting into the inspiration. When we get back, it will be the Good Morning Uganda Newsreel segment. We'll be back.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
Where we have discussions concerning the topics on the table. Well, my name is Philomena once again, and I am in the company of Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono this morning. And like I did say at the start, issues of accountability, mismanagement of funds, all these we are going to be discussing this morning. But before we get into the conversations, just to remind you of our poll question, and that is running on all our social media platforms, that is on Twitter. And we are asking, we want to hear from you. How do you think accountability can be achieved, especially in all these government institutions? That we expect to hear from you, and then we'll be sharing it as Good Morning Uganda happens. Now, Robert, yesterday, Parliament was on fire, and over very many issues, but one of the main issues was actually when Dr. Musenero Monica was, presenting her case and defending herself. Now, of course, with all the conversations that did go on, we saw Parliament adopting a select committee report where they actually came through to call on the minister, Dr. of course Monica Musenero, for Science and Technology, to step aside because of an alleged mismanagement of COVID-19 related, and that is of course funds that were sent in for research. Now we know that COVID hit us in 2020, and a lot of the research had to be done, and this is where our science comes in, our scientists come in. Our Science and Technology Ministry had to have a whole hand in this. Now, according to this report, the MPs were very unsatisfactory with all that came out, and they did even ask the IGG to further investigate this report. And in the meantime, they asked, or they wanted her to step aside while the investigations are going on. Now, Of course, they expect to hear back from the IGG in a span of 3 months. But again, looking at Parliament, when it comes as an arm of government, when it comes to issues of accountability, when it comes to issues of putting them up on the table, I mean, usually it's in line of corruption to expose the people who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, if I were to ask Red about now, how do you think Parliament is doing, especially in that line? Do you think they have achieved something? There is evidence that they have done something in line with that? Or maybe they're just there just to show off, talk about it and just put it on the table to rest?
First, I want to look at the functions of Parliament to know if it is within their mandate.
Yes.
And I want to say indeed, because Parliament has 4 major roles. One of them is members debate and pass laws through which the institution of government endeavor to guide the country's process. So that they do. Budget approval.
Yes.
We have now entered the budget month, and we are seeing how different budgets have been coming to these committees. They cut.
Everybody's fighting for their plight. Yes.
Then oversight role. This is where the Musenero issue comes. Oversight role, that is monitor and bring to the attention of ministers and the public government misuse of funds, violation of rules of law and unlawful activities. Now, you've asked if you've had meaningful work being done by Parliament.
Yes.
I want to say, first and foremost, much as Parliament has this oversight role, they're not the final judge in the first place. That's why over a time Ugandans get excited.
Yes.
Because this committee, remember the Uganda Railways thing, when it was before Parliament?
Yes.
We bought wagons that can't move. Nyonyintono was all over the place. You would think it is going to rain fire. And so many people have come. So many have appeared. The 11th, the 10th Parliament, but because they don't follow through. It's a one show.
They present issues, make noise
Today
about
is so
them,
much
and
excitement. I even saw one member of Parliament follow the doctor almost to the parking lot. Then he said this, even if this happens, we shall still follow up. But you see, Uganda, we've had a problem. There's one artist who said, "Nature chijja kugwa." That just give it a matter of time. Something new comes up, then the Musenero issue will be gone. So we do not have those devoted members that are determined to which extent, if this case has been handled to the IGG as a period of 3 months, the IGG has come up with a report. Who continues to push? You know?
Yes.
Who brings that private member's bill? You know? Who calls for action? Who follows through the judiciary? Pushing, because they're supposed to be independent. That is the executive, legislature, and the judiciary.
Yes.
But they should still work in tandem. Who ensures that what you started, because this was first brought by one member of Parliament, you remember?
Yes.
Who stood up and said, "You people, there is a problem. Here, there is this. Until the select committee now came up with a report. But the biggest problem is we excite Ugandans that we are fighting corruption. We are determined along the way, because the Parliament's mandate, they do not, much as they try to do some investigation. Asman Basaira was very clear.
Yes.
He said, "Honorable members, we do not have that capacity to investigate this to the letter. But the IGG has. So let's forward this report there." Then also sometimes Parliament, there are a lot of emotions when these members are debating. They overget emotional sometimes and lose the value of reasoning. You know?
Yes.
Because they are politicians, they will move out to excite us. But if you're to ask me where Parliament, committees, these reports they have done, some of these reports are
Because the
shelved.
reports are always there. They will always come in. They will always
They are
be presented
shelved.
before the committees.
But you see, then if I now am going to start something, that later is not going to have an impact. Okay, to the doctor, I saw her crying for help. People don't want to see me in the next cabinet. They are my enemies and all that. There could be a bit of image tainting, maybe. But this cannot be a guarantee for her not to return to cabinet.
Yes.
If it is so. So I think Parliament must up their game and have a way of seeing through, because they have the powers.
Yes.
They can demand for this report, they can demand for action, but what happens as they're still doing issues of national importance and relevance, then politics pops in. They're discussing, we've so far spent about 142 billion in research since the outbreak of COVID-19.
Back in 2020.
Back in 2020. Fellow Ugandans, 142 billion. How many schools are those? 142 billion. Hospitals, health center force, how many are those?
Yes.
What do we have to show that we've researched and come up with this? So, if such will at one time, 4 months, will go into history books, then Parliament, you need to find a way how you push and push and push to the latter. But this continuous excitement of us, for us the journalists, yes, we have stories to tell, to report, but this does not help Ugandans. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, there are several things that really came to light courtesy of this select committee report. Now, in this actually report, they did say that the Presidential Scientific Initiative, the project called PRESIDE, apparently this is the same project through which the COVID-19 research-related funds were sent through. Now, there are very many things that also came because of this project. Number one, it does not act under any legal framework. Okay, and in the description, while Dr. Musenero was actually speaking and addressing the members of parliament, she said, listen, funds that were sent for this project were sent straight to the Ministry of Science and Technology. The project itself did not handle any form of cash, plus it did not have any account. Now, when you look at all these things, the major one being that it does not have a legal framework, why would projects like that, where you're dealing with large amounts of money, especially in the interest of the public, because these are funds that were meant to do research for COVID-19. COVID-19 was a pandemic. It was not a personal problem. It was affecting every Ugandan and everyone in the world. Now, for a project like that to operate in a system where there is no legal framework, what does that say about how we run our projects here in Uganda?
We must understand that when COVID came in, there's so much that wasn't done formally. One, because of the magnitude of COVID-19 globally. This was another giant that we didn't know how to fight.
It was unforeseen.
There's a lot of panic, not only in Uganda, globally. If you look at many countries, the investigations towards COVID-19 fund. The number of bureaucratic measures that had to be skipped, the number of some procedures that didn't go as they should have gone, because we were eager to find a solution.
Very many countries actually came up with contingency plans, yes.
Blundered. Because even when you go to the United States of America, follow what is happening. These national medias, you understand that still they're having challenges here and here. Here you didn't follow procedure. It was about emergencies basically, and our responses to emergencies, we had those challenges. And second, as explained by Dr. Monica Musenero, the problem, I want to say there were a lot of emotions, and you know sometimes when emotions are up in the air, reasoning is limited. That's why many of us, we say that to judge a person's integrity, the reasoning capacity, is when they're either so excited or deeply in sorrow. So, when she said that we didn't touch money, we know there are projects where the overseer may not touch money.
Yes.
All they tell you is give us what you need. Purchasing, paying, all that are done by a ministry. So what we need is to investigate, did what Dr. Monica Musenero tell Parliament, was it true or she was lying? If she says that at this particular time I wasn't in office, it was my predecessor, Dr. Erioda Tumwesije. And the PS by then, I wasn't there. if it is true, these monies were dispersed at such time, when she wasn't, why are you hunting her? If she's not lying and telling the truth. If you have incidences of, because the report indicates about 1.4 billion that was allocated to staff salary.
Yes.
And when they look at the appointment letters and check through, it is only 444 million that was paid to the people.
Yes.
This is a huge chunk. Explain, you know. But the problem is sometimes explanations that cannot be backed by evidence become a problem. I can only wait for the IGG's report, which is done by professionals, people experienced in investigating, and they prove, was she involved or she wasn't, as she's saying. Because Dr. Museno is telling that, no, if I wasn't in charge of money, if some of these things happened when I wasn't yet in office, why? Is it blackmail? Is it because I come as a specialist in this ministry, I do some cleanup, I ensure there is sanity, we achieve? Because scientists are rare to her level.
Yes.
We have
Because she's a
Mosenero,
very smart
a
and
minister,
intelligent.
but also a person who is an innovator. You know, that's why sometimes you find that people are saying, no, let's find out. If these are just mere allegations, or if the report has come out indicating this, then who did what? Because Uganda, I don't know, I think there is a ghost. Because the IGG, meanwhile, even I'm not excited so much, though I'm waiting to see. The IGG, on several occasions or instances, has made reports, scaring reports of misuse of money. Many Ugandans, and I want to thank that office, because it does not let Ugandans down as far as making reports indicating financial losses. Here money was lost, here. But the biggest problem is we've lacked the expert to get that ghost. Because if money is lost, it is put on pen and paper. For example, what I've told you, that 1.4 billion was allocated for salaries. Look at the appointment letters and all that.
Yes.
But when we look and find out that only 444 million was paid, now who took the other money? Fighting corruption in Uganda is not hard, because it would be hard when you don't know where the problem is. But the problem is very clear. Philomena, I gave you my 5 bottles of Hallelujah. I come to pick them, there are only 2. Now prove to me where the 3 went. If we have a report and the report is indicating losses, let's get that ghost. Why I call it a ghost? Because at the end of the day, we've put too much Ugandans' hopes that we are fighting corruption.
Now,
but mentioning about corruption,
yes,
when you don't have those that embezzled this money, to me even I think it is now tainting our image as a country. You make up a report every year, we lose about, is it 20 trillion in corruption?
Yes.
Honorable Betty Kamya, remember when she was launching this lifestyle audit? I was like, wow, we lose all this amount of money. Now, where are those that have been arrested? Where are those that have been implicated? Investigation, we are still moving.
Well, we are reminding you of the poll question that is running. How can accountability how can proper accountability in government institutions be realized? UBCGMU and the hashtag, of course, that is why you can send your feedback, and also WhatsApp us on 0709 602 592. Now, speaking of accountability, Robert, it's very important for any government institution, for any institution anyway, as long as you're handling quite large amounts of money, accountability is expected. Now, several members of parliament were actually saying she needs to be held accountable for those funds, okay? And just to be, you know, one of the members of parliament, I think his name is Eddie Kwizera, the MP for Bufumbira East, he came out to say, listen, this is science we're dealing with, okay? And we're talking about research. So is there some sort of research design? Anyway, if you did the research, are there results? Because they are part of the accountability. Now, these were not presented. But again, when you look at most of our government, you were talking about corruption. Corruption happens because clearly no one can say what happened to this money or who did what with it, where did it go. But we know money was dispersed off to this certain institution. Now, looking at all our government institutions, even private institutions, but it's more prominent
private,
when it comes to...
Private there. If someone sets up, you know, the private sector, why there is less corruption. It has only come in now that we have public-private partnership, that our government has now gone into that.
Yes.
But the private sector, you don't mess.
You don't mess because they also have different systems on which you know, they run, so that they can eliminate all these characters. So how can we actually ensure that and realize this accountability? Because in all these institutions, Robert, I will tell you, one of the major problems is accountability. So what are we doing wrong, and how can we right our wrongs, especially when it comes to these institutions and accountability affairs?
First, we must desire to fight corruption. I want to repeat this. We must desire to fight corruption. Ugandans, we don't want to fight corruption.
We talk about it, we sing about it, and that's it?
We don't want to.
Is that the most we are doing?
Because if it is our own benefiting from corruption, we don't want to fight corruption. In the church, there is corruption. I say this without fear of contradiction. In the church, there is corruption. In the mosques, there is corruption. Day by day, they are arguing, you sold this plot, you are bribed here. In hospitals, there is corruption. In the homes, there is corruption. Jacob Olanya, the fallen Speaker of Parliament,
even in the homes there is corruption?
Yes. Even in homes, there is corruption. A woman bribes a child not to speak. Look, you're demanding someone money, and the father tells the child, tell them utara taliyo. And the child comes here and says, Daddy, agambe taliyo. We are teaching young children to be corrupt. Then if the mission is done very well, get a sweet. Right from walking, for us, the people who have lived here for years, when we were walking, we weren't bribed to walk. Today, I went to buy shoes for Maya, and they are telling me these ones, when he steps down, they sing. You get it?
Yes.
You're bribing this child with a shoe where she says, that she continues moving. This is a natural system. Go to hospitals, there is corruption. So Ugandans, we don't want to fight corruption because all have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. That's why when one of my favorite quotes of the foreign Speaker of Parliament, it was at Kololo ceremonial grounds during the anti-corruption work that began from Constitutional Square to Ko. He said, Mr. President, all of us here are corrupt. We are here marching, doing what? But we are going to go back and do the same thing. Here when Ramadan Ngobi says I've allocated this amount of money, someone is seeing an arcade. Someone is seeing a finished building.
Yes.
Not service delivery. So unless we are all willing to fight corruption, when the president said let's have such a law that people who have misused funds, at least let them not get bail for about 6 months to enable investigation. They rose up in arms. Now that is prosecution.
Yes.
That is persecution. This is that. So I saw one VIP was arrested. Leaders of the Catholic Church rushed to Ruzira. Began oyo bamuleke. When Amuhororo is, the Bahororo come. When Amukonjo is, the Bakonjo come. We don't say no, you are shaming us as the Baganda. We don't say you are shaming us as, we look at, now they are attacking us, because we are benefiting. Ugandans, we've not gotten tired of corruption. Let's stop deceiving ourselves because we benefit from corruption. The day we are sure we are fed up of corruption, how many times have members of parliament stormed out of parliament because a corrupt official, because a report they investigated, they're not seeing measures? They storm out on funny things.
Yes.
You see? How many times have we seen people shunning the corrupt? Go to church, the corrupt sit in front. So, before we get tired of corruption, and we will come them honorable, so and so, full of dirty hands contributing big to church, we shall not get fed up of corruption. Then finally on this, we must empower our investigating mechanism. It's also investigating corruption. It's not that very easy. There is syndicate corruption. The corrupt have become very, very rich. We must do that. And not to forget, we must be ready, without fear or favor, to ensure all Ugandans are equal before the law. All Ugandans are equal before the law. If you are still in these days of the animal farm, then I believe we may talk about corruption, but every day it may increase.
Well, corruption right now is starting from the roots and, at family level, knowing that it is the first unit where we have our children being raised. It's quite a problem if we are being corrupt at that level. Well, it's your responsibility as a national, as a Ugandan national. Are you contributing to this whole corruption system, or are you doing something to make sure we break the chains, to make sure that we get into a systemized way of doing things, and a very normal way? It should be ideally the normal way to do things.
And you know what is killing this country? Let me give you the final stroke to the back of the horse. Parents, are you aware that they buy sweets for children who are campaigning in schools?
Oh, they do. That I have seen. I have seen.
Bribe. And you stand now, you're a member of parliament, accusing Musenero. When you bought sweets for your child to bribe votes, we've all sinned.
Well, just to remind you of our poll question, and that is, how can proper accountability in our government institutions be realized? How can proper accountability in our government institutions be realized? The numbers are right there on the screen, so you can use that to send us your thoughts. We need to pick a brain from you and see how we can help ourselves as Ugandans and also protect our country. Well, we're going into the papers to see what made the big headlines, and later on I'll be taking you to the roads to see the situation, how is it looking like, and later Mollen will also be giving you the weather forecast and more news from climate. And again, the GMU agenda with Robert is also in the queue. Do not forget, we also have the sports highlights that will be coming in from Ruben Mpima Chividango. We'll be back. Have a great morning.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals, out-of-this-world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for one whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for one whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, in the press review this morning in the Daily Monitor, the big headline over there, we're looking at MPs make U-turn on Olanya Fund. And of course, the Speaker of Parliament was not happy, and she said she would refund the money to all those that want their 1 million back. Well, be sure to get the story over there. But also still in more news, we look at Fare Thee Well Museveni paying tribute to United Arab Emirates President. And still in more news, DRC operation to end in 2 weeks. Now this is from Muhozi. And Musenero COVID cash probe goes to IGG desk. Response is of course expected in 3 months. And we never lost cash in road contracts. That is from UNRA. Still in more news, how Border Group is fighting poverty with 10,000 Uganda shillings a daily contribution. And there is a pullout for your P7 candidates. Well, don't miss out on that. Moving on to the second page of the Daily Monitor this morning in the archives. And we're looking at then South African Deputy President and Facilitator for Great Lakes Peace Initiative, Jacob Zuma, being welcomed by former Uganda Vice President Gilbert Bukenya and quite some other dignitaries. And when we take you back in history today, Buganda's trade boycott denounced. And still in history today, U.S. Abraham Lincoln gets nominated for presidency. Well, all that's in the Daily Monitor this morning, but also taking a look at what is happening in the New Vision.
Well, in the New Vision this morning, they give you all parish circles to get shillings 1.5 trillion. Wow, that is really interesting. But more on that story is on page 5 of the New Vision for this morning. Big headline right there, government explains parish model staff payment, and that is where the parish circles will actually benefit as well. There is more to that story. They also give you a big picture right there of the First Lady laying foundation for the Makerere main building project as she poses with some of the administration from Makerere University. Now, also in the New Vision for this morning, Parliament MPs ask IGG to probe Musenero. More on that is on page 12 of the New Vision. But also from Parliament, Land Commission boss clashes before MPs. Get more on that story. That is on page 7 of the New Vision. In crime, over 700 arrested in 9 districts. We're talking about Karamoja as well. Get more on that in the New Vision for today. But also the New Vision gives you a headline right there as Shiba names rape suspect. There is a full story right there that is on page 4 of the New Vision for this morning. And also crossing over to the second page, they give you a picture right there as we talk about a livestock market. Now also more on today in history, May 18th, 1992, fire guards DP officers. They take you back in time. And also for May 18th, 1993, Army said to go. Babandiga. Also more of that on what President Ibrahim was giving out from Nigeria. That is also in today's New Vision. Government directs circles on interest rates. Well, it's about time, but there is also more to that story that you can get on the second page of the New Vision.
Moving on to Daily Monitor Sports. Epic Alowo Nanziri ensure title fight keeps going, and now they are down to the wire. And still looking at Victoria Powell's Roar Loud in Nepal. And taking it to the UEFA Europa League final, the Glory Hunters, of course, that is Seville, will host German side Eintracht Frankfurt and Scottish Giants Rangers with a shot at Continental Glory today. And of course, when you move on to the second page of the sports, we have quite a full pictorial page looking at Wamala T's offering in style at UGC. Very, very interesting, and pictures of very happy men and women in the golf tournament. So yes, grab your copy to catch up on all these sports stories of a Daily Monitor.
And in the New Vision Sports for this morning, they show you Nachivubo Phase 1 nearly done. And some of the pictures right there from what was last seen in April 2021, but looks like it's nearly done. There is more to that story in the New Vision Sport, but also hope for gold as Uganda hopes for more medals at the climax of the athletics, which is in the ongoing International School Sport Federation that is going on in Normandy, France. Now, we do hope for more medals. They also give you a lineup of those participating, at what extent, and what you can hope for, as we do have some gold winners right there. Cherotich also in there. Get more in the New Vision Sport. But also they're showing you Ndeje hoping to bounce back against Gulu in the UFL. Well, they also give you a picture right there as the Ndeje Stars are trying to hail on and celebrate a goal against the UMU that was in the previous game, and they're looking forward to actually winning that. And also give you Namakula Resurrects, that is the professional golfer and UPDF Sergeant Flavia Namakula was texted victory since the last Ladies Open in 2016. Now there is more to that story as well in the New Vision Sports.
Well, moving on to the Daily Nation, how the game has changed. Now, this, of course, is in contrast, is in line of a decision 2022, where in 83 days we'll be seeing who the next Kenya's president will be, and still giving you all the details. And despite backlash, Sauti Sol vowed to take war to Raila. Well, and still focusing on Homa Bay, and this is in the county news. Now, the Sauti Sol are actually using their songs in these, their songs are being used in the campaigns by Raila. So clearly, when you see them vouching for Raila, it shouldn't be a surprise to you. Clearly, I am seeing the countries in divisions. Everybody wants to see their person headed for this position. But like I told you, 83 days to go to the elections to see who the next president will be. Now, still looking at AfriCity's Gala opens with call for elevation of municipality. So this is in the Daily Nation this morning. Grab your copy at only 2,700 Uganda shillings to catch up and see what's happening over there. Well, while we are still at it, also taking you to the roads this morning, the situation is, well, a bit tight, especially if you're coming in from areas of Boyogerede, Nakawa, Chireka. As you're approaching a town, there could be some traffic hiccups that you're bound to meet. Now, starting off from Boyogere, well, the traffic is actually very, very heavy there, especially at the junction where you could branch off and use the alternative route that is around Nambole to head to Chireka. But also, when you continue through the Kampala Jinja Highway, there are a few traffic hiccups here and there, so really you need to be careful about that. However, if you succeed in going through the traffic and heading to Chireka, you need to expect another traffic spot. Well, Chireka is a very busy town and there are very many people around that town center. We have also a junction that brings in people from Namgongo trying to connect onto this road. So you need to be very careful of that and plan your journey accordingly. And seeing as now that the rains are trying to kick in this morning, clearly you need to expect traffic buildups on some of these roads. But away from that, as you go on and approach Banda, the traffic is also over there and it's quite heavy, especially around Banda stage. Again, this is a joining road where we have cars coming in from Chambogo trying to join the main road, which is of course the Kampala Jinja highway. So yes, expect the traffic being heavy around there, especially around the Banda stage. However, after the stage, as you proceed to Nakawa, the stretch is actually free and just a few traffic hiccups here and there, but it shouldn't be a big problem. When you get to Nakawa though, you need to expect quite some heavy traffic, especially at the junction where we have cars coming in from Tinda, we have cars coming in from Chinawataka, all trying to join the main road as they're trying to access Lugogo and all the way coming to town. So yes, the traffic is expected and it's quite heavy on the spot. So if you are approaching, it shouldn't be a surprise to you. And if you haven't, well, it's advisable that you start planning your journey accordingly. When you get to Lugogo, the situation is actually the same because we have, again, traffic that is heavy on these spots. And also having cars that are coming in from New Port Bay Road clearly drives the traffic up a little bit more. So yes, plan accordingly. However, now this is mainly for the people who are getting into Kampala. For those that are leaving Kampala still using the same road, yes, you may be inconvenienced a little bit, but it shouldn't be to a high magnitude. However, when you get to around Ministry of Internal Affairs, the traffic is actually very heavy around there. Like usually on every day, we have cars coming in from Wampeo, we have cars coming in from these other road, Station Road. Well, it is very expected. But again, like I always say, you need to exercise a little bit of patience when it comes to the roads. Well, the traffic in town clearly at the center hasn't yet really started to build up very heavily. But of course, as time goes on, it will. And again, I believe it's because cars are still, or people are still leaving their home areas and they're getting into the city center. So slightly from now, a few minutes or hours from now, the traffic may get a little heavier as you access the city center. But again, there is a report that has been released by Uganda Road Network showing that people, a big percentage of Kampala or Ugandans feel unsafe on the roads. Now, this definitely is a call out to you to be very careful because you feel unsafe because you make it unsafe. So you have to be a very responsible road user and make sure that everybody on the road is as safe as you are. Like I said, you're not the only one using the road, so be very cautious. Again, the fact that we are all feeling unsafe on the roads, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't add up, but again, it's the reality. Yesterday we did see an accident again where we had a taxi whose tire burst and we lost a number of people. Again, make sure your cars are in good mechanical conditions to be on the road because you're not losing only your life, but there are other people who are losing their lives. There are families who depend on these people. For now, I'll hand you over to Mollen to give you more from the climate and again to give us the weather forecast. Mollen, I am seeing these rains I did not expect. Yesterday around my home area, it was raining. It rained like a problem and I thought we are done with the rain. But now on a Wednesday morning, these rains that I did not see coming, what's happening? Is it going to be like this during the course of the day?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, you're not done with the rains yet. It looks like these are still going to be around as we conclude May. So these rains are coming in the morning, especially around Lake Victoria, but again in the afternoon, those same rains will still reappear. It looks like we do have a rainmaker around here, which is Lake Victoria. It will still fuel in, so do expect those. And like we were mentioning yesterday, it's not yet time to take down the sweater because May is still going to be bringing in those rains for sure.
Well, clearly, it's not your time to put down the sweater. Carry that sweater, carry that jacket until I'm very certain that it will be scorching hot 24/7. I will carry my sweater. Well, that's it from the traffic updates this morning. I now leave you officially to the weather prophetess. Have a great morning I will be able to also get into your feedback as Good Morning Uganda. So make sure you bring your feedback in, and that is of course regarding how we can be able to make sure that proper accountability is achieved in our government institutions. Good morning.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. But also, as you give us your feedback, I also want to give you some of the feedback coming in from the skies. If you're anywhere and traveling towards Kampala or the central part of the country, it is raining right now. Most places already having those drizzles. Some of the rain's trying to clear up in a few places, but it's still cold and cloudy. So be sure to take with you your jacket or also an umbrella, because the rains will continue throughout most of the morning. So it will be nice for you to prepare for that. But also we'll be looking into your forecast later on. For now, let's take a look at what is trending when it comes to climate and weather that is happening across the world. Now, globally, we did see recently one of the hugest or largest wildfires happening across the world in the US, which was dubbed the Gulf Canyon, and that was across the New Mexico. Well, it does come out right now, the report that came out yesterday is indicating that this is the largest fire in the state's history. And so far, they have been dealing with wildfires every year, but they have never seen a fire that is taking out such a huge amount of hectares of land. And also, there is worry that today could worsen this spread, and that is coming in from the news over the area that is New Mexico, as they do expect more strong winds fueling in. And obviously, this has been worsened by the drought crisis that has been happening across New Mexico and that area of the state, which still speaks to how this has been varying. And obviously, scientists have also come out to relate this with the climate variations over the area, because what is happening is that over the years, they have seen more and more hectares of land being taken up by these wildfires and also being fueled by the drought cases. So obviously, that is one thing that should probe action across the area. But also not just there, there was a report that did come out yesterday indicative of who is getting more vulnerable when it comes to climate change. And obviously, Africa has been listed to be one of the continents that are worst hit by extreme weather events. Now, there is need to have action, especially when it comes to how do we live with this, because obviously these weather extremes are still going to happen, especially taking in consideration that we're still polluting the environment. And also the report did highlight that pollution is killing 9 million people a year. That is as Africa is hit hardest. Now, more on that is indicating that at least we have had human contribution towards pollution. That is in terms of industrialization, in terms of having, dusty roads. We did have a report that came out recently indicating pollution in Kampala, and much of that was attributed to even the poor roads that we have, and obviously having the same things in the same area. You have industries, you have city center in the same area, which has contributed to more of that. And this statistics of 9 million, per year was since 2015. So you can imagine at what level we're looking at when it comes to pollution. And now also the models that have been put across are indicating that there might be a 7% increase in pollution-related death, looking at the period of 2015 to 2019 when the analysis was done. And most of that is also related to the fact that the environment is changing and it's no longer as normal as we used to expect it. We have put up more infrastructure in terms of buildings, and obviously that has come across as curbing most of, our instruments of action, the forests, the swamps, everything around us has now gone low because of more of this infrastructure development, but also industrial air pollution and toxic chemicals have been a huge contribution towards that, which is why yesterday's report that came out is indicating more of pollution that could actually be happening. So I do think that we should take advice, especially when you see like Uganda, the health practitioners did come out to say, yes, there is more pollution in Kampala, and we could be likely looking at a health crisis of dealing with respiratory diseases. This is information that should be taken key and, make up new plans, strategic plans of making sure that we're not having the same issues. Because if you look at the areas that were highlighted in Kampala, Kawempe, Busega, this is where we do have industries actually. So now you know what is contributing to this kind of pollution that is even being looked at even at a global scale. Well, away from that, we also still have
a lot of connection with the Russia-Ukraine war to what is happening in terms of climate change. And you know, what has been mainly coming across is the use of natural gas. Now, Russia has been providing natural gas to most of these countries, all the great countries, Germany, the EU. Most of them have been relying on the Russian natural gas. But because of the war in Ukraine and the sanctions put on Russia, they also restrained from using natural gas. And their actually course of action is go back to the use of fossil fuels, go back to use of production of coal, which they did not agree upon when it came to the climate change agreement that came out in Glasgow, that is the Glasgow Pact. Now what we're saying is that most likely we could be dealing with more catastrophe and a lot of extreme weather events should these countries decide, of course, to go back to coal production, which has been one of those that we are worried about when it comes to contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. And obviously, there are a lot of talks around how can we go renewable when there is still, when there is still a lot of pressure when it comes to climate finance. But these are countries that can actually afford going renewable. They can afford wind energy. They can afford renewable energy. And they are not choosing that, but instead they're taking the easy way out. That is by going back to coal production because it is readily available. And this is where we have an issue. We could be looking at a lot of climate emergencies in the future. And it's not just the future, because even the climate scientists that are coming out to give out this report that did come out yesterday are indicating that if countries do not get course of having that natural gas still while they devise other means of renewable energy, we could be looking at a huge rise in temperatures by 2030 that was set across as the target to keeping those temperatures well below 2 degrees. But now the projections are actually going up to 5 degrees Celsius. That could be happening. We did see that projection for India as well, as they were talking about heat waves are most likely to increase to 5 degrees Celsius by 2030. And this is something that is most likely, especially if we consider going with fossil fuels. Now, more also, I don't want, this morning, Robert and Philomena were calling me a prophetess of doom, maybe bringing in the bad news. But there is also good news when it comes to climate change. People are trying to do action. Now, there is action that is relative when people are trying to take advantage of the situation and make money out of it. And there is a story that did make headlines when it comes to climate news this morning, more on in India, as they were hit by the heat wave that is actually ongoing up to now. People have become creative, and the state is coming out to say they have seen more production in air coolers, the conditioners, that are now taking a market. People are resorting to doing that because it seems like business. So in a way, this is actually saying people are becoming innovative and they are gaining money. So there is a bad situation of heat wave, but how people are coping is actually something that did, feel like is exciting the nation, because people are getting into that business and they should have done this earlier. So maybe that is good bad news as well. But we do know that the heat wave has been forecast to actually continue until the monsoon winds kick in, that is for June into July and August. But this heat wave usually comes in earlier before that rainy season comes through. However, this time around, it is going to be quite much, as temperatures already recorded over the area have already broken records, that is for parts of India as well as Pakistan. Now, also the good news coming through is that the Tesla mogul, the founder of Tesla, that is Elon Musk, who is recently also taking on a lot of interest in building electric cars, has come out to say that he will host the second Artificial Intelligence Day, that is in August 19th, with the company likely to expand on plans to fine-tune its driving technology towards electric cars. Now, this is good news. He has come out himself to confirm that Tesla will host a second Artificial Intelligence Day in August, and in that point, they will be looking at more of how to move the cars into basically electric cars. So that is good news. It means that at least some of these people that are able to afford doing such a transition are doing it, and they're taking the climate crisis really seriously. We're yet to see what happens in August with Tesla going that line. What I know about car business, or most of those huge companies, is that once one business person takes it on to make electric cars. Others will follow because the competition now will be to that level. So he leads the competition in making sure that all the cars that are going to be produced with the coming years are going to be electric. That is where others will also come in to join the campaign and make sure that, you know, we are away from use of fossil fuels, because if we are talking about oil and gas, all this is non-renewable and a danger to our environment because it does add a lot into the skies. Well, also, the good news coming through is that we'll be able to take you through what is going on across the country, and that is in terms of weather and climate that is happening across the country. Now, this morning we did see mostly rainy conditions across parts of Lake Victoria Basin, but also other areas seem to be dealing with mostly sunny conditions. Now, if you take a look into our satellite for this morning, we did start off with that rainy system coming from Lake Victoria, but it looks like that is also starting to clear away, mostly headed towards the western side of Lake Victoria, and could be bringing us rains over there. Otherwise, the rest of the country is actually dealing with sunny conditions. We'll go ahead and take a look into our forecast that is for this morning across most areas for the country. That is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority. We start off with the central parts of Lake Victoria, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We're forecasting those isolated showers. We already have rains even as we speak, and that is expected to be at a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. Crossing over to southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi, Rubirizi, we're forecasting sunny intervals, already dealing with that sun, but temperatures are also quite moderate at 26 degrees centigrade for this morning. Now, the western side of Lake Victoria, we're forecasting isolated showers. We already have that system moving through, and that will be starting off with a chilly morning at 25 degrees centigrade. Looking at Mount Elgon Highlands, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine as well. We already have the sun through over the area as we speak, but temperature is expected to be quite warm at 27 degrees centigrade, and that could continue into the afternoon. Now, the eastern side of Lake Victoria, we do have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja. We're forecasting isolated showers. Those will be coming in as the morning progresses, also starting off with a warm 27. Eastern Uganda, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, also starting off with a hot 28 degrees centigrade. We do expect more sun in the afternoon, and temperatures could be hitting the lower 30s as the day progresses. Now, the eastern side of Central, where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Nakaseke, Bururi, we're forecasting isolated showers. We have clouds that are building over the area as we speak, and that will also be at a warm 27 degrees centigrade. Central northern Uganda, where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel and Jumani, we're forecasting sunny intervals. That is also starting off with a warm 28 degrees centigrade. We could be looking at much more of that sun coming through later as the day progresses. Now, much of the Karamoja region, eastern Uganda, northern Uganda is still going to be dealing with mostly sunny weather for today, but it looks like the southern sector could be looking at more rains developing even later in the afternoon. Well, that is it from Weather and Nature. We will be having Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up, and then later we'll be having sports highlights as well coming in from Ruben. I'll be leaving you at that. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. Wishing you a lovely morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
You can only become a leader when there are problems.
Behind the headlines.
So what are we deliberating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Was brought to you by
Simply deposit 20K or more on your mobile money for a chance to win 3 Toyota Succeeds and money to 2,000 lucky winners every week. We're giving away 24 cars and over 2 billion shillings of mobile money.
A World Cup in the desert? the first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals, out-of-this-world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Welcome to English in a Minute. American English has many expressions that come from card games. Is this another one?
It's going to rain all weekend. How am I going to have my lawn care party now?
Yeah, that's not the kind of activity you can bring indoors. Maybe a party is not in the cards, Anna.
Jonathan, so many people wanted to work outside for me in the hot, hot sun.
If something is not in the cards, it is not likely to happen. People also say in the cards to mean something is likely to happen. This phrase actually comes from fortune tellers. They use special cards to supposedly predict a person's future. And that's English in a Minute.
We also have enough air.
It is intellectually engaging.
And you can only become a leader when there are problems.
I like that.
The same applies to Rwanda, Burundi. So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
But at the moment, we would rather deal with what we have, make it right.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Deeply incisive.
The different political forces that we have in the country, in the country, we don't seem to really have achieved that minimum political consensus over certain things.
Authentically symbolic and insightful. Behind the Headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odongto. All on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
This week on UBC.
Hey, it's time to play. Let's go! We're glad you came. Because we love to share. Let's have some fun. What should we try next? To everyone. Because we love to learn together. Making new friends forever. Sesame Street friends.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves. High-flying saves. Unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew something had to change, and his vision was bigger than anyone could imagine. He made it possible to receive quality medical services anywhere in Uganda by simply using a phone.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you or call or SMS 162.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Day of the month of May. World Museums Day is today, and the celebrations will be held. And of course, for Ugandans, many, this is a day where we recognize our past, where we are and where we are heading from. Yesterday, we had a good parade of vintage cars in our gardens here at UBC TV, and it was really interesting to see some of those old wheels that people cruised when we were not yet even born. Well, it is Good Morning Uganda agenda, and thank you for keeping with us. At this special time today, we want to discuss the plight of health workers in this country. We've seen on a number of occasions many of the members in our health fraternity calling upon government for salary enhancement. Now, yesterday, the Permanent Secretary and Ministry of Finance came out very clearly and said they have earmarked 400 billion, and this will cater for these groups. Joining me on set is the President, Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union, that is Kiplangat Justus Kilop, who we're going to be discussing some of these issues that they are raising. We've seen them. Yesterday they were meeting members of the Public Service Committee Today we know they are meeting both the Health Committee of Parliament and of course those on public service to draft a way forward on how they can handle this. But he's going to help us better understand what are these grievances. Why are we seeing today that the allied workers are on strike? I expect also to be joined by a representative from the allied workers on set, and we will be discussing more of that. But first, my guest, Chiplangat.
Yes.
I know you're busy during this time, meeting after meeting, here and there, but thank you for finding time.
Thank you very much. My name is Justus Kirabo, the president of Uganda Nurses and Midwife Union, and I'm glad to be here. Good morning, viewers.
Now, to begin with, there are two issues that you're raising. First, salary enhancement, yes, which government has promised to do. But then also you go to disparities. And one wonders, let's begin with that issue, salary disparities. Why would a nurse be concerned of how much a medical doctor is getting, yet they've also had their enhancement if it's also given to them? Why is it salary disparities? You know, you've wanted increment, government has given you a certain percentage, but you're still now raising disparities. Are you just not willing to work and want to hold government at ransom?
Thank you very much, presenter. The issue of salary disparities in this country is very huge. You find one person earning 30 million, 25 million, and another one earning 1 million. Another one earns 2 million. What is that? That is what we call salary disparity. You look at commissioners, they don't earn the same. Another person, you are a commissioner, but you are earning 20 million, and another one earns 10 million. Yet you are at the rank of the commissioners. Look here, when a nurse, a graduate nurse, comes out from the university.
That's a nurse with a degree.
That's a nurse with a degree. And that nurse, his pay or her pay is 3 million. A degree doctor who sat with this nurse in the same class and has the same degree in medicine, degree in nursing, the same, all are sciences. But a doctor earns 5 million. This one earns 2.5 or 3 million. That is what we call salary disparity. Look at issues like cadres like permanent secretaries. Earns over 18 million. Other workers, the deputies, earn maybe 12 million. The next commissioners earns like 8 million. But somebody is high, 18 million. Look at COW, Chief Administrative Officers, who supervises the whole district finances. He is the accounting officer of a district, earning 2.3 million. And a doctor within the supervision territory there earns 8 million or 5 million. Yet this chief administrative officer is the supervisor in the district. But he earns less than the worker. Those are the things we say salary disparities. Yesterday I presented in public service committee, and they appreciate that. They saw that there was a very big problem. Now,
I want you to relate that in your particular field. That
yes,
is the
now
medical
I am
field.
now coming
Yes.
to medical field. What causes all of this is the government of the Republic of Uganda has failed completely to observe the collective bargaining agreement. We discussed with the government under public service. We signed an agreement, an MOU, saying that this year we should go like this. For example, this collective bargaining agreement could help government to prioritize. For example, we were enhanced salary in 2018. When we were enhanced 2018, so we kept quiet up to 2022. Now, meaning that government should have enhanced other cadres 2020, 2019, that is maybe judiciary, perhaps. Then 2020 can be teachers, because we looked at the resources. How government get revenue? Now, if government gets revenue for this year, enhance one group, then another group keeps quiet.
But Chiplangat, we all know that salary is a continuous expenditure.
Yes.
It is not a token of appreciation that the budget, if you enhance this particular discipline, then the next year enhance this particular discipline, it doesn't mean that you've given this and you're going to include them on again. Once, for example, that doctors are to earn maybe 4 million, that means that you're now going to continue. It's not a one-off.
Yes.
That you're going to pay once and it's done. So when government comes out and says, we would want to address these issues, but for now, our hands are constrained. The resource envelope is constrained. We can enhance this to this particular amount of money, because in their view, maybe they're the most vital. Then you get this particular portion. The allied workers, their representative will soon join us, we hope, because he said he's on his way, says that your turn will come. For now, let's begin with this category. What isn't clear or fair there?
Look here. What we don't really understand, we know that the government annually grows, looks for money. Is the money. So now, if government could, for example, Tanzania said that we are increasing 23% of all cadres. Government should come out and say, this year we are adding you 10%. And it keeps quiet. That could be the best. But why we are looking left and right? Because we don't know what is our fate come to financial year. But if government would declare that this year we are adding you 5%, who will write? For all cadres, little, we keep quiet. But why people are rioting? Why people are not
carrying out industrial actions?
You look at another cadre. By the way, on 26 of this month, if nurses have no faith that what is their take home, they are also going for industrial action. We have issued already the statements that we need our take home before financial year. So government should just come up and say, look here, we are adding you this amount of money. And we know that that is the basket that is in government. We don't need to riot, but we don't need to do industrial action. Yesterday I watched the minister saying, even if you strike, will I be the money? Will you get the money? Will you bring the money?
If the money is not there,
now why don't you tell us
why
the money?
don't you understand that? Hasn't government given you clear explanations as to why
there
they
is
are not
no
being
clear
able to give this amount of money to you?
No. Even the parliament yesterday, they were saying we don't know how much you will add. So why can't the government come up and say, this financial year we have collected, we are earmarked for 40 billion, as you said.
The PSA says 400 billion.
Yes, 400 billion. What is my take out of that money? Who will take what? So we want government to split it. That nurses will take out of that money, 400 billion, will take 20%. Then maybe judiciary or doctors will take 30%. Like that, we would be knowing. But now, why people are going in that structure? It is because we don't know our take home. As long as we know today that my take home, I have been earning 1.2 and I'm going home with 1.5. I know that 300 is on top. I said, let me go. I will not bother because I know that that is the resource envelope which government have. But they can tell you, we have earmarked 400 billion. Now, who will take what? Split it and tell me, health workers, you are taking 20% out of this money. or nurses you are taking 20%, then doctors you are taking 3%, like that. Allied health 3%. This strike will stop even tomorrow. But now if we combine allied health who are on strike, you see the patients now, they are suffering. Now on 26, nurses are going. Because today, if they don't tell me in Parliament how much I'm going home with by the financial year, nurses are going on strike on 26. And now if we combine the two, doctors will not. What made it very difficult again, doctors are already knowing they take home. That after a degree, because the president of course directed, and unfortunately he directed only for one cadre.
That is the medical doctor.
That's the medical doctor, that a doctor coming out, a degree doctor, should earn 5 million. And all the doctors know now that if I earn as a
next financial year,
I will earn 5 million. But they have already implemented, because an intern doctor is earning half pay of the 5 million.
That is 2.5.
2.5.
And they are getting that.
And they are getting that now I speak. I visited the Kampala hospital, I visited Gulu hospital, and I even Moroto hospital. I went around the country to ascertain this. They are already earning 2.5, meaning that come financial year,
the doctor will
earn
get their
5 million as a graduate doctor. But then other seniors will continue earning, because if a graduate doctor earns this, the money is of senior doctors.
It was well stipulated.
Yes.
A consultant will earn this, so each of them knows.
Now.
They're just waiting for time.
So long as you know, when I qualify as a graduate, how much do I earn? Because when you are even reading this, you are reading books, you are struggling to pay fees, and our courses are more expensive than doctors even. To train a nurse is very expensive than training a doctor.
Well, I'll go for a break, and when I return, I'll have another guest joining me. We are still looking at the plight of health workers in the country, where we've seen a number of them choose industrial action to get salary enhancement. And of course, another issue that was raised there is the salary disparities, where some feel that much as, yes, an increment could be, the gaps should be reduced between these various professionals within the same discipline. Let's go for a short break. We'll return shortly.
This is Good Morning Uganda. Pick of the day on UBC.
You can only become a leader when there are problems.
Behind the headlines.
So what are we deliberating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Was brought to you by
Simply deposit 20K or more on your mobile money for a chance to win 3 Toyota Succeeds and money to 2,000 lucky winners every week. We're giving away 24 cars and over 2 billion shillings of mobile money.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much for keeping it with us. It is still Good Morning Uganda agenda, and I'm joined by Mugabo Michael, who happens to be the coordinator, that is Busoga region. Still looking at the plight of health workers in this country, where our government has come out clearly to state that 400 billion has been earmarked to settle some of the issues they are putting across. Most of that is salary enhancement. However, we still have some that are insisting they still need to know their cut. Now, Mugabo, when we talk about this particular region, Busoga, we know that you're demanding for salary enhancement.
True.
But one of the things that is coming out very clearly is also people are wondering, does salary enhancement mean better service delivery from you, the professionals, say from the nurses, from the allied workers, or are we just going to see government spend more on paying? Yes, you have an improved lifestyle, there will be more money in the economy because you spend this money, but it will not be reflected in terms of service delivery. Good morning.
Good morning, presenter. As you said, Mugabo Michael, working with Nyonyintono District Local Government and the coordinator, Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union, Busoga region. We are looking at salary enhancement vis-a-vis service delivery on ground. Yeah, we are trying our best, and you know, the public should not misunderstand us that we are only focusing on salary increment. One of our roles as well as Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union is to make sure at least there is the rights of patients are observed in terms of service delivery. It's not only salary, because everybody would need to hear about the noise we make over salary, but we are also aiming at making sure services reach the people. That's why we say in our package, it's not only salary increment, but we also say let every parish have a health center. Let's have increase the staffing. You find like a health center to having 2 staffs. And that structure was gazetted, I think, 15 years back. Then we are looking at increasing supplies, then drugs within the hospital. So then housing for health workers, making sure these health workers are just close to the health facility at any moment. At the moment, these patients or an emergency, this health worker can just jump out from the house which is near the health facility, so that reaches that, provides the service to the patients. So it is a package.
Okay, now being a package, yes. Does that yield to better service delivery from you, the professionals? Because we've had people complain of services in public facilities. The nurses are not there. That the nurses, if they are there, they're not so much interested in helping people. You're more than pleading, doing us favors. And now you're the people coming out and saying, we need more money.
Yeah, true.
How do the two?
Those cries are there. Nurses are not there. Nurses are not always on duty. We accept and we admit that problem, that it is there. We don't deny that. But meanwhile, as we make sure as leaders, together with the government, make sure health workers are in facilities working, but maybe there are some factors related to poor pay, related to poor non-existence of the housing. Maybe factors you find like in my district in Nyonyintono, Buyende, in my region, Namutumba, you find that almost 30% of the health facilities one who's with accommodation. So somebody is reaching late, somebody is stressed up, 600,000 for the U7, the beginning salary for this beginner at U7, the certificate nurse midwife lab, 600,000. This person is looking for a nearby town to sleep in an ideal house of 200,000. Then he has to take a child to Makerere, will take a child to GNGCS, will take a child to Muiri, Busoga College, Muiri, at least, which is not less than $1 million, but is getting 600,000. So that poor pay may be is one of the issues causing these nurses to look for other sources of income so that they make the ends meet. But we accept those basics are there, and it's part of our fight to make sure nurses are in the hospital, midwives are in maternity, make sure we provide better services. but it is also government. And this is not new. 2018, that's coming 5 years back, government committed itself. We are calling it collective bargaining agreement 2018, where government itself committed together with labor unions, accepted and signed an agreement that in 5 years we shall be able to provide the salary amounting to U7 1.35, U4 that's U5 that's diploma, 3 million, then U6 at 2 million, U4 bachelor science nursing midwifery at 4.8. Then interns in between there, half of the bachelors.
That was a deal, a commitment in 2018.
2018, and the 5 years are clocking 1st July 2022. So this is not new. We are just reminding government to respect what they committed themselves to implement come 1 month and a half from now.
Okay, Justice, you talked about knowing your cut out of the cake. You want to know what is your piece. Who is supposed to deliver this information to you? Who are you seeking this clarity from?
Yes, thank you very much. Yesterday I watched the Minister of Finance talking about the strike, then the PS, Minister of Public, the Minister of Finance still, talking about earmarking of 400 billion. Now, it is the same, and the minister clearly said, come and we talk. Where do we get that minister? He says, come and we talk. Where do we get him? Now, if you say, come we talk, we have negotiating machinery at Ministry of Public Service. When it is due to salary enhancement, when there is no basket for us, when there is something that you have earmarked, you call us, or we meet and discuss. If I walk to Ministry of Finance right now, I will not find the minister. He talked yesterday that, come, we talk. We have written several letters, seeking for his attention. We have written several letters, seeking for Public Service Ministry to attend to us. But they are nowhere to be seen. You go there, they say the minister is in the meeting, the minister is abroad, the minister is where. Who would should? So it is the Ministry of Finance to look for workers and say, workers come here, let us sit. We have, I saw even the URA was there, saying that we have collected around 20-something billions. Now, if they have got that information, they should sit us down and say, you workers, we have 400 billion, but this 400 billion will go like this. Some of it will be for nurses, some of it laboratory, some of it alliance, some of it doctors. Full stop. And we cut. Now, the cake is cut from when everybody say. And we go when we know that this man has gone with a half cake, I've gone with a quarter cake, I've gone with a bigger cake. So it is the Ministry of Finance which is letting us down, making people to run up and down to look for other resources. Now, you've talked about, he has clearly said about nurses not on duty. No, the structure of this government is of 1995, when the population was only 19 million Ugandans. Now, you post a nurse in health center, two nurses, and she is doing something, the nurse does the following. She's a lab technician in that health facility. She's dispensing, she's clerking, she's delivering, she's monitoring the children, she's giving the vaccination. Now, when she's in another room, when you come, you find that she's not there. And whoever comes, more especially politicians, immediately they reach in the facility and they find that there is no nurse attending to the people. Then he starts saying, no, these nurses should be chased, these nurses. Yet the nurse is in another room doing vaccination. Because if the government structure this system very well, to add to us more manpower, to say that the population has reached 44 million, now we need to add maybe in health center 10 nurses.
More recruitment.
More recruitment.
Okay,
in health center 3, we add 15 nurses. In health center 4, we had 20 nurses. Such kind of
That
thing.
will also have a reflection on what the budget can handle.
Exactly.
And of course the salaries you're talking about. Now, let's go in terms of ethical and of course professionalism, love for your profession. You deal with life. When the allied workers go on strike, you're going to find that someone who needs a lab technician will not be able to know what they're suffering from. When a nurse goes on strike, we know what it means. Good doctors are sorted. Ethically, is it the strike that all other avenues have been explored and your last action is striking, absconding from duty deliberately to prove a point? Yes, I want to begin with Michael here.
The strike, ethically, we are not supposed to strike. But as the president has said, there are many negotiations that have been going on time and again. And we are peaceful. Health workers across board, you know, we are peaceful people, always committed to our work. But you're looking at a situation where you're negotiating, comprehensive negotiation time after time, and then you agree at a certain point, and then one body is not implementing what you've agreed upon. And now that one is making us to be bad people who are aiming at only demonstrating, only continuous demands. But we are demanding for what we've agreed upon time after time. So the government, we need, like, look at the disparities we are talking about. One time we were in meetings since 2017. By 2019, we were in meetings with different public service minister, PS, Minister of Gender, and we were saying, if you're increasing, let's say 200,000, let the 200 cut across.
Cut across, yes.
But then look at a situation, there is a proposed figure, which we are yet to confirm whether it is true, much as public service denied it. You add 100,000 on the U7, you add 100,000 on the U6, then U4, MOs, dental surgeons, pharmacists, and then doctors, then you put 2 million. Then somewhere bachelor's nursing, you put 1.6. Then this lowest cadre of the nurse, you put 100,000. So is that fair enough? So for us, we are saying, if you have to change from what we agreed upon 5 years back, then you need to call us back and say, please, maybe the economy, because most people are saying in government, they say economy is not doing well. But then if you need to change, we are also human beings. Call us as leaders of this nurse, midwife, or health workers and say, please, we agreed on A, B, C, D. But we are seeing we can't handle. Maybe the figure can be A, B, C, D with us. Not planning for us where we are not. Because for us as nurses union, we say, nothing for us without us. So what are you now putting? Which figures are you meaning? Realistically, even other professionals are saying, for sure, now 100, then 2 million increment. Then the consultants here 15, 17 million, which is not bad, but can you balance? That one, the outcome will be, you actually, the nurses, because we are leaders, you're saying, if that one is implemented, then it means those ones whom they are giving much will stay on duty. For us, we shall do the work which is
but don't you think also this comes with the levels of professionalism and qualification? I wouldn't, not to undermine nurses, but if I'm to equate a doctor and a nurse, well, I wouldn't think that if it is a salary increment, maybe 20% or 30% for each. I believe maybe, yes, one would deserve more. If you have a certificate nurse and you're increasing maybe 100,000, would it be normal for you to increase 100,000 to a doctor still? Look at their demands, levels of qualification, expertise, and all this. Yes.
Thank you very much, Presenter. But you know, what we are saying is that a doctor spends 5 years in school. A nurse, in this case of a degree nurse, spends 4 years in school.
Yes.
But then we are also saying we spend more time with the patient than the doctor. So you look at, you spend more years in school, but we spending more time with the patient. Doctors are never on night duty. They are not in evening duty. They are not on day duty. They come on call. They come do the ward round, leaves you there. For me, I remain with the patient day, night, evening. But when the doctor is sleeping and the patient has changed condition, it is me to get my airtime. And government cannot provide that airtime. They say doctor on call. It is written even you go to Mulago Hospital. They say doctor on call number 1, number 2, number 3. So you get your own airtime and say, doctor, the patient's condition has changed. I have been with this patient since he operated the patient. He leaves me with the patient after operation. Me, I'm monitoring blood sugar, I'm monitoring blood pressure, I'm monitoring the change condition, I'm monitoring everything. Seated beside the patient. And him, he goes to sleep or he's in his clinic and you call and say the patient has changed condition. When he comes, I would have given something to the patient. Then he will even say, continue with the same treatment, which I have done myself, and say, continue with the same treatment. So meaning that, as much as you spend time in school, more 1 year than us, we spend more time with the patient. So let the difference be minimum, not huge, than beyond 1 million.
Okay.
And then two is that if government could understand the collective bargaining agreement, as he said, we sign it. We committed, they committed themselves. And we kept quiet from 2018, and we say, come 2022, we shall be enhanced. And that is where we are going.
Well, in the interest of time, I want to thank you so much, gentlemen, but I'll just give each one of you 1 minute to have your final remarks regarding the plight of health workers and, of course, more regarding the nurse and midwifery fraternity, beginning with Michael.
We are looking forward to make sure our services are better to the public, and we communicate to our colleagues outside there that you remain committed at workplaces. The negotiations are the final touches. We are hoping by this week in Parliament, and after here we are going to Parliament to make sure at least everything is sorted. We are hoping for the good. Putting it in mind is that our warning is going up to 26th, so it still stands, and we have not changed from that. As long as the disparities and then the agreement is not agreed upon or respected by this government. We love this government so much, and then we love our patients so much. We are ready to serve them, but also our welfare needs to be taken, is key as far as better service delivery is concerned.
Maybe just to get you clearly, you mentioned two things. Now you bring in the 2018 agreement, you bring in the issue of disparities. So what exactly? If your salaries are enhanced to the meaningful, would you still mind of the disparities?
Yeah, the disparity, according to what was agreed upon, the disparity was not so much significant. No, in the bargaining,
why are you concerned about
in the bargaining agreement, there was no much disparity, and we had agreed on the figures. Say, Bachelor of Science, dental surgeons, pharmacists and doctors at 5 million, then Bachelor of Science, nursing at 4.8 million. We had accepted that. Then all diplomas science at 3 million. Then all certificates, lab, whatever, midwifery, nursing at 1.35. So that one was accepted. But now the implementation is where the disparity is coming in from, and we don't know who is spearheading that. And why? That's why the president, we are saying maybe it could be finance ministry that is thinking for us to divert from what we agreed upon to put in their own. Then bringing also the disparity, which is really uncalled for. And that's why the allied professions are already on strike, because they are seeing the disparity has been too much. Nobody complained that the bargaining agreement, these gaps are too big, so they should narrow it. No, we had accepted those figures. But now, why a change? Already our colleagues are on strike, and soon we are joining them in case that one is not sorted.
Well, your final remarks, President. as we wind up and you rush to Parliament?
Yeah, thank you very much, Presenter. Now, our fate now will be determined by Parliament, because yesterday we had a very successful meeting with the Public Service Committee. Although, and I am very surprised that they don't know other things about salaries, and they are in the committee, and they don't know what is happening. That was my surprise yesterday. But today, we have now engaged again Health Service Committee plus Public Service Committee joining together with the Nurses Union, and maybe other leaders will join us, and we discuss way forward. However, since we are still in the budgetary season, we expect a lot, and we actually tell our colleagues to continue working faithfully and be on duty until we see our fate today. Actually, the public service minister attended our celebration of International Nurses Days celebrations in Kamuli, and he promised to give us a circular today about the salaries. As much as we are in Parliament, we are also expecting the line minister, who is our Minister of Public Service, to say something by the end of today. Okay. So if we get that information, then we shall now come back here and tell the nurses that this is our take home. What we want is just the collective bargaining agreement. Disparities you are talking about is cut across in the CPA, because we said all certificate people in health and this, all diplomas in health and this, all degree and this. So it will not be a very big issue if they observe CPA, collective bargaining agreement. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. We've been discussing the plight of health workers in this country, and we hope for the best from the meeting, and of course by the end of the day we hope for good news, because health is a human right. Health is a priority of everybody, and good, we know that government has earmarked 400 billion to cater for these salary disparity issues. We hope each one will know how their part or piece of the cake is, and then we have proper workers, and also well emulated, and have that zeal to work. Have a lovely day. Sports is next, then Good Morning Uganda Extra will follow. God bless you. Stay safe.